Welcome to Matt's Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Trust all is well. It's getting very hot here in Nairobi, and then I see in most other parts of the world it's terribly cold. Macro thoughts: the era of easy money is ending and the world is bracing for shocks. Investors concluded that interest rates would rise faster than they had anticipated, almost certainly in the United States. And perhaps eventually in Europe and Asia too. They yanked their treasure out of stocks, entrusted it to safer repositories of wealth like bonds and cash. Business cycles across different markets are more correlated than they have ever been, said Mr. Saralia of Oxford Economics. It's the global supply chain, and what it means is that volatility will feed through the system. And this is what I was writing about over the weekend when I said, like a great golden flood of liquidity, QE is believed to have inflated market valuations as far as emerging, frontier, sovereign, sub-Saharan African, and even cryptocurrency markets. US stocks rallied amid buy-the-dip calls, but so they rebounded. And I'll tell you by exactly how much. And what's interesting is President Trump really cloaked his administration in the righteousness of the markets, and therefore a very steep sell-off would be highly problematic. Putting things into perspective, the Dow gained 567 points yesterday after Monday's 1,175 point drop. Bottom line, minus 608 points. And then, of course, we had Friday's sell-off, which is not factored into that. Home thoughts: I would rather be a rebel than a slave. That's Emmeline, Pankhurst. I like this photograph of Big Ben, which I used to hear when I was at school every quarter of an hour, and got used to it. Zanzibar by Mix Carter. I like both these photographs. Joie de vivre, as you can see. Cheers went up as SpaceX successfully tested its Falcon Heavy rocket, a landmark achievement in the Elon Musk Martian's aspirations. Elon Musk has launched his product SpaceX. Have a look at that video link. Takes me back, of course, to my favorite quotation about the parabola. It is a curve each of them feels unmistakably. It is the parabola. They must have guessed, once or twice guessed and refused to believe that everything always, collectively, had been moving towards that purified shape latent in the sky. That shape of no surprise, no second chance, no return. BBC World also posted a photograph of Elon Musk's huge Falcon Heavy rocket. That took me back to the mysterious device named the Schwarzgerät, which is slated to be installed in a rocket with a serial number 00000. Political reflections: Zuma preparing to fire his deputy Ramaphosa, South Africa's Communist Party says. Zuma's office was quick to deny that claim. The allegations are completely baseless, Zuma's spokesman Bongani said in an email statement. You could imagine what would happen to the rand if that happened. Zuma's resignation appears nearer as ANC delays crisis meeting. South African President Jacob Zuma appeared a step closer to resigning after the ruling ANC delayed an emergency meeting to discuss whether to force him from office. The decision by the ANC's National Executive Committee, its top decision-making body, to postpone its meeting until later this month came after constructive talks between Zuma and Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa replaced the president as leader of the ruling ANC in December. My supposition is that the postponement of the NEC means the core issue around Zuma's exit has been resolved, and now they are ironing out details. The rand has been the best performer in the world. against the dollar since December the 18th election as ANC leader, and was 1.5% strong at 11.9432. Zuma is gone, said Zolani Dube. I expect his resignation to be announced tomorrow. Ramaphosa has sidelined President Zuma quicker than expected, prompting most of Zuma's allies to withdraw their support. Zuma will likely leave office this month one way or another. On the 18th of December, which is coincident with that huge rally, and I was saying I expected a large rally in the Rand, I asked, will it be 1994 all over again? I speculated Cyril Ramaphosa could well be the ignition for returning South Africa back to that incredible moment full of promise in 1994. Former Vice President Joe Biden says President Trump should not consent to a special counsel interview. The president has some difficulty with precision. Turkey establishing long-sought US safe haven in northern Syria. Turkey's recent incursion into northern Syria is poised to finally establish the long-sought-after buffer zone, or safe haven, called for by US policymakers since as early as 2012. While the US and Turkey are currently feigning a diplomatic row over the incursion, with Turkey's targeting and displacement of Kurds allegedly backed by the US, it is clear that recent claims by the US regarding its expanding support of Kurdish militias has been arming and backing in Syria was done as an intentional pretext for Turkey to justify an otherwise indefensible invasion of Syrian territory. Interesting. Russian-Turkish axis in Syria faces meltdown, says Asia Times. Two things differentiate the downing of a Russian Su-25 ground attack jet in the western province of Idlib on February the 3rd from the drone attacks on the Russian airbase at Haimim a month earlier. One, Russia could thwart the attack on January 5 by a wave of drone aircraft, but singularly failed to anticipate the use of man-portable air defense systems by extremists operating in Idlib under Turkish watch. Russia lost an ace fighter pilot in the latter attack. An influential lawmaker, Dmitry Sadlin, coordinator of the Russia-Syria Parliamentary Friendship Group, went ahead to speculate, saying, "We have information that the manpads used to bring down our jet was brought into Syria from a neighboring country several days ago. Countries from whose territory weapons arrive that are then used against Russian servicemen must understand that this will not go unpunished." Idlib province is situated right on Syria's border with Turkey. It is supposed to be a sealed border under strict surveillance by Turkish security agencies. If what Sabin alleged was based on factual information, Russian intelligence recently monitored the transfer of manpads from Turkey to extremists. For Turkey, the knot is threefold. Firstly, it cannot come to terms with the new reality that Russia, which has civilizational ties with Greece and Cyprus, has today become the dominant power in the Eastern Mediterranean. Secondly, it disapproves of ongoing Syrian military operations supported by air power to regain control of Idlib from opposition groups that have enjoyed Turkish support. And above all, thirdly, Erdogan's grand design to establish a permanent Turkish foothold in Syria will remain a pipe dream so long as Russia underpins Syria's unity, territorial integrity. Turkey has all along viewed Moscow's links with Kurds and Afrin suspiciously. It's quite an interesting development, isn't it? One thought that the Russians and the Turks were aligned, but it seems Erdogan is playing a double game, and he's double dealing with Vladimir Putin. Ozone layers thinning over densely populated areas, scientists say. Over the weekend, I wrote a piece about Halcyon Days, and I said the markets worldwide exited its Halcyon Days on Friday. And you can see that in this chart of volatility from Jamie at Reuters. VIX above 50% for remarkably only third time ever. If you count September 08 to March 09 as one time, LTCM, Asia crisis, dot-com bubble, Greece, Euro debt crisis, Brexit, none of that got the VIX above 50, but it did today. Shows how complacent skewed the market was. Let's move on to currency markets. Euro dollar 123.87, dollar index is at 89.56. Japanese yen 109.21, Swiss franc 0.9351, the pound 139.60, the Australian dollar is at 0.7880, Indian rupee 64.145, South Korean won 1084.83, the Rial 323.50, Egyptian pound 17.65, and the South African rand rallied sharply and is at 11.9537. When facing correlated sell-off markets, investors look to reduce positions, and the most crowded FX positions are short the dollar. Octave is also bullish the dollar, says T Commodity. In local US hours, dollar selling has reversed to buying as US data has repeatedly beaten consensus. When facing correlated sell-off across markets, investors look to reduce positions. The most crowded FX positions are short dollar. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart, 89.56. I think we're going back to 90. Euro dollar, according to the same T Commodity. If we break below 123.50, it's done, he says. We're at 123.86. Bitcoin, wow, what a ride. 2nd of January, I said I'm no longer bullish, but I said on that date, the structure of Bitcoin is, however, one that lends itself to being short squeezed. And being short squeezed is not a pleasant sensation, let me assure you. Bitcoin was last at 7,400, having dipped below 6,000. Quite a rebound. Cryptocurrencies under pressure after Bitcoin drops below 6,000. Crypto is being driven by daily negative news. There's regulation speculation in India, South Korea, and the US, and then there's hacking, the Facebook situation, and finally the Tether story has people worried as well. Look what just happened. This was JS Blockland, the bounce from 6,000. We're last at 7,380. The cliff edge is fast approaching for Bitcoin miners. A 70% price drop since the heady days of mid-December has cut profitability to the bone. With the cryptocurrency hitting $6,000 on Tuesday, only the biggest and most efficient can stay above water. But even these are balancing on a knife edge, according to a Gadfly analysis. Unless you're an outfit running the fastest rigs bought at wholesale prices, 67% of all mining power is in the hands of 4 pools. Chances are you're losing money. The arms race among participants has brought 40% more mining power online since Bitcoin prices went above $19,000 on December the 18th. That's resulted in the rebalancing system built into the digital currency, making it 51% more difficult to complete a block, according to data from Blockchain Info. Miners forced to work ever harder for each Bitcoin have shrugged off this escalating requirement for computational power, up 18-fold in 2 years, because a 21-fold price increase over the same period made the cost worth the investment. Had Bitcoin stayed at its 50-day moving average of $13,200, then the average miner could expect to print $80 per week in profit at current levels of computation and difficulty. This is based on the very generous assumption that a miner is running Bitmain's Technologies Limited's Antminer S9, one of the most advanced systems available, and the setup is in China at wholesale prices. Older equipment will have lower returns, and a lot of those mines are still online. Snap shares jumped as much as 29% in extended trading following Q4 results. Wynn Resorts CEO Steve Wynn steps down. Gold last trading at $13.29. Crude oil on the soft, on the move lower, $63.69. Let's move on to Sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, the Maldives is a chicken feed for the Indian Armed Forces, and an intervention in the Maldives may serve the purpose of creating jingoism in an election year. This is state of emergency. The president is at loggerheads with the judiciary. The opposition is calling for an Indian intervention, but the Chinese are there too. Put up a photograph of the Maldives taken from the bucket list. It looks like the Congo government is switching gears from glissement toward elections. But what kind of elections? Should donors support this? Should the opposition boycott? This is Jason Stearns. For most of the past 3 years, the lament of diplomats and human rights activists alike has been summed up by one word: glissement. Kabila does not want to hold elections as he is term limited, so he plays for time by creating artificial delays. The focus of advocacy was on the urgent need for elections. Some, the Rassemblement, Lucha, Human Rights Watch, as well as others, then changed tack toward demanding Kabila's resignation. A transition saw Kabila after losing faith that Kabila would ever hold credible elections. Those differences of approach were not initially very apparent. Everybody wanted Kabila to leave, just some wanted it to happen before the elections. Now, after years of dragging their feet, the ruling coalition has now apparently begun to shift gears. According to 3 senior Western diplomats in Kinshasa, a senior UN official and an opposition leader I spoke with the past week, the government has now finally decided on holding elections. There are numerous indications of this. Parliament approved a new electoral law in just 2 weeks. The Senate wrapped up the voter registration with just minor delays, and the government has allocated $80 million more to elections than the Senate asked for in 2018. Government officials have even begun to speak in clearer terms about Kabila's departure. The head of the Election Commission, not known for his bravado, said that elections must bring about alternates, which requires Kabila's departure, and the information minister said that Kabila would name his successor by July, although he has begun to talk that back. Not everybody agrees with this analysis. One foreign diplomat I talked with said it was more likely that the government will pursue delays for as long as it can. Leaders who have tried the Putin-Medvedev switch and have failed, just look to the neighboring Angola, where much stronger Dos Santos was unable to rein in his successor. Ethiopia's revolution at the top, that's Africa Report. Whatever happens, this will most likely be a make or break year for the EPRDF. Regional governments are growing stronger, demanding full realization of the autonomy promised by the federal constitution, but largely ignored by Melesh. The constitution was on pause for 26 years, says Fetsum Berhane. The regional states are now only realizing how powerful they are. According to the UN, 1 million people have been displaced in Ethiopian ethnic fighting. Zimbabwe's Tsvangirai is critically ill in South Africa. Ivory Coast plans $1.2 billion sale of Eurobonds. As I said in my article over the weekend, frontier and emerging market issuers need to get their skates on. SONA 2018 in South Africa, the annual address has been postponed for the first time in democratic South Africa. South African all shares down 5.26% so far this year. Dollar versus rand, the rand has rallied back below 12. Egyptian pound is at 17.6495. Nigerian all share up 14.73% so far this year, but that's topped by the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index, which is up an eye-popping 23.8% this year. Stefana Dejak, who represents the EU here in Kenya, says, I'm learning that Kenya is a very vibrant democracy that resembles the democracy of Europe and the United States. According to Fast FT, Kenyan opposition says some members' passports have been suspended in the crackdown. Dennis Onyango, the last time passports were suspended was in the Moi era, and not even Moi behaved like this, he said. Mr. Miguna has been deported, but his supporters took to the streets of several towns in western Kenya on Tuesday to protest against his treatment. At least one person was killed in Mr. Miguna's hometown, Ahero, by a stray bullet as police fired in the air to disperse demonstrators. Mr. Onyango said about 14 people had their passports suspended. They include Senator James Orengo, Jimmy Wanjigi, the opposition's main financier, and David Indi, a prominent economist. He said the government repression could trigger violence in the next few days. The mood for resistance is stronger now than it was in the past, he said. There are now millions of people who believe the government can be fought. This is a picture of Miguna on his flight back to Canada. He was charged with being present and consenting to the administration of an oath to commit a capital offence, namely treason. This is a photograph of him earlier that Tristan McConnell posted of him in Kajiado. Safaricom eased 0.84% yesterday to close at 29.50, but on very heavy-duty volume action. Look at this 5-month chart. It was the highest number of shares traded in 5 months. Kenya shilling has been firming, last at 101.347. Kenya interbank rates are seen in this from Kenya Wall Street. Nairobi all shares up 5.95% year to date. NSE 20 is up 1.29% year to date. Thank you for stopping by.